Hey, I thought maybe you'd come help me plant some carrots and chickpeas and we could have a talk. I'm gonna let you sit in this box right here to try to protect you from the wind. If you need anything like coffee or something, you just let me know. I have grown chickpeas before and they grew. We're gonna try them this year. I read like you can plant them with carrots and maybe that's a good thing, and so we're gonna do that. I got carrot seed from last year from the carrots that I planted, that I let, you know, some of them go to seed so I could collect seed. And then the chickpeas are just from the store, and we're just gonna go ahead and plant those. Anyways, so at first I was not going to make a video because I was feeling a little down in the doldrums, and I had decided that I should probably wait until I'm in like a really good mood to make a video, and then I was like, well, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Maybe there's a lesson here that we can learn together. Now I'll tell you what brought it on, a few things. One, when I drove to town yesterday, not town, like just our little town, because I actually had to go for jury duty. And on the way, there is a big farm. I had a big sign up and I had saw that it was for sale a while ago and it sold. And now they have a thing up that says that it's being rezoned. So I don't know what it's being rezoned for. I don't know if it's being rezoned for commercial purposes, residential purposes, but I do know that means it's not a farm anymore. And I've been seeing that a lot lately. And a few things. One, there are a lot of people moving out here. Some people, I've seen comments that think that we just moved here from the city. We actually never lived in a city, and we've been living here over a decade. So it just so happens that it's only in the past like year and a half that I became very convicted that we need to be growing our own food. So that's the whole push for making this like a real homestead. But we've been living here over 10 years. I don't know how many years. Enough that we have seen lots of neighbors come and go, and there's been houses that have been built. In fact, the new house, we call this one house the new house, it's been there for like probably maybe 10 years, at least 8 years. It's not so new anymore. Now there's more new houses. Which brings me to the next thing. Today we had to pay our property tax. And if you own a house, you probably have had this happen to you. The value of your house has gone up on paper quite a bit, and so you owe more in taxes. And the bad thing about that is like my house hasn't gotten any nicer. My house hasn't gotten any nicer. My house doesn't give me any money. It just costs more in taxes and insurance and stuff like that. It's not very helpful. And I know why it's happening. I know real estate market's hot, but also I'll show you. Here, let me show you. Let's go for a little walk, shall we? Not too far. Right across the street from us is a house that the nice old woman used to live in. She lived there for forever, and she owned farmland that's all in back of this house. A big farm. We have a couple big farms on our road, and that's the one that's closest to us because it's right across from our house. Let me show you. All right. So this is her house that she lived in. It's a nice little, you know, brick ranch. So it must have been a couple years ago now. She passed away, and they sold the farm, but first they chopped it up. And then people, my husband, we walked, and the price they put on these lots was so much money. And my husband, we were thinking in like, you know, prices 15 years ago, he's like, no one's going to buy that. Well, they did, and let me show you one of the houses, closest house. All right, I don't know if you can see that, and I don't know if you can tell this, but that house is so big. It probably doesn't look big because it's so far away, but the house is so big. It's many times the size of my house, many times the size of her house. And that's what's been happening. People move in, they got a lot of money, and they're like, I'm gonna move out a bit and get some land, which makes sense. Hey, I'd do it. If I had money, I'd move out and get a bunch of land too if I were them. But the problem for the rest of us is now it's like, man, with houses like that going up, we joke, but it's like eventually our house is just going to be a tear down. Like, we have a friend who's in that situation right now. He lives in a house that was passed down to him from his dad. dad. He's been in the family. He's lived there forever, as long, you know, since he was born. And there are houses going up across the street. I looked online to make sure that I wasn't making it up. I looked online on Zillow. There's a house right across the street from him for sale for $915,000. Now, if you're from like California, maybe that doesn't mean much to you, but $915,000 for a house that does not even have half an acre is obscene. And the problem is, like, what is he supposed to do? What do you think happens to your property taxes when there's a house next door that's worth $1 million? And your house is worth nothing. Literally, your house, if he was going to sell his house, no offense if you're watching, but I mean, we all know it's same with our house, you'd get the price of the land. All right, back to sowing chickpeas. So I just put them in like this. They kind of grow. They're a little bit, they like make little fronds. They're like little frondy plants. So these are some carrots that actually I did an experiment, and I planted this whole bed. I kind of threw down carrot seed last fall to see what would happen. It was a failure. I will not be doing it again. I can count, there's 9 carrots that came up. Like, actually there were more. Okay. There were a bunch that came up, but then every time it like froze really, really hard, I guess more of them died because now there's only 9. All right, so am I just complaining? No, stick with me. I'm going somewhere here. So the fourth thing, whatever, that kind of got to me is I went online and I looked at a homesteading video, there was some great knowledge there. These people, like, they definitely knew what they were doing, but they had sold their house in like the city or something, and then with all the money bought this homestead. So they had, within like a year, they built a house. They had a huge fenced in, I don't know if you know how much fencing is, fenced in garden. They had tractors, they had high tunnels, they had all this infrastructure, which cost big money. And it just, I don't know, it just got to me. There was a comment on one of them who was like, oh great, another rich person moving out to play homesteading. And it's like, they're not playing homesteading, they are homesteading. But I think that there's a feeling of unhappiness amongst the people who have been living that way, not because they chose to and not with a bunch of money, but because they had to. And it brings me to this idea of people who romanticize kind of poor situations and then make them romantic because they have money. Let me give an example. This is gonna get me some flack. No, I'm gonna get some pushback from this. Hear me out first. Tiny houses. If you want to live in a small house, like, the cost of some of these houses was as much as buying a regular house, and surely enough to buy at least 2 trailers. But like, it's like you live in the way that people already live, but making it still unattainable. Like, the way you're doing it is chic and cool. Like, if you live in a tiny house, you're cool and trendy, but if you live in a trailer, it didn't have the same appeal. And I feel like the homesteading maybe is going the same way. I'm not sure. Like, I'm open to everyone. Obviously, I'm just starting being serious about this. I didn't grow up this way. I didn't grow up country. I've never had to stake tobacco like I know some of my friends did. And part of it is like the romanticization. You're romanticizing a situation that maybe is not very romantic to live through. So for instance, the thought of like, oh, grow up on a farm and can all my own food and rely on the land, and and we'll stake tobacco and whatever. And like, if you ask my friend, like, it was not fun. It wasn't fun. She has no romantic illusions about it. It's not fun in the time. And I see in the homesteading community and also the prepping community how sometimes they'll romanticize like the Great Depression. And it's only romantic because you're so many decades removed from it. I'm sure it was not romantic at all while people were living through it, okay? It was so not romantic that my grandma, who I don't even think really had, she didn't live on a farm, she didn't grow up all crazy like that, she would save like tinfoil and little pieces of saran wrap. Like, it got into their psyche. Like, there has to be some sort of trauma there to have a response like that, even years later, even when you have money. All right, so here's the carrot seed that I saved from last year. This is a prime example of seed saving. I mean, this wasn't even off of too many carrots. Hopefully they grow and are as tasty as the carrots we got, because the carrots that we got last year were really tasty. So I'm just gonna take them and I can be heavy-handed with them because I have so many. We're just gonna sprinkle them all in. All right, so where am I going with this? Where are you going with this? I've been trying to think of like when you get down about stuff, certain ways you can, I guess, like cope with it, honestly. Sometimes your situation is not going to be ideal. It's just not. I have fantasized before, even lately, about like living in a cabin, just like off-grid, but not like solar panel off, just like off-grid, just like in the middle of nowhere in a cabin with just nothing, a dirt floor, because I am tired of sweeping and I just want a dirt floor. I know people, we have friends who lived 2 years pretty much in that situation with like no electricity, no nothing. It was not by choice and it was not romantic and they did not enjoy it. And I feel like the difference then is that one person is choosing to be there and probably has the knows in their mind that they don't have to be there, and the other person's being forced into that situation and doesn't see like a way out, I guess, and that they're in that situation and it sucks. So for instance, if I came to you and I was like, hey, could you go live in a tent on the side of the road for a month and try to make the best out of it? And you could be like, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, it'd probably be tough, but I could do that. Okay, because A, you have an end date and you know you're there by choice. Whereas someone who's living in a tent by the side of the road might not have the best feeling about it because they don't see a way out and they didn't choose to be there. So I know I might catch a lot of flack for this video, I do, but I'm just trying to rationalize this to myself, give another way of looking at stuff. So like, don't come at me, but you can come at me if you really want to, it's fine. Maybe we could romanticize our own life and our own struggles instead of letting people decades from now do it for us and look back and say, oh, if I was in that situation, it'd be so dreamy, while we're here being like, ugh. Maybe we could find the romantic aspect, the good in it, not take life so seriously. I don't know, guys. I'm digging here. And I know there's certain situations that you just cannot romanticize, and then I am not speaking to those situations. But for little things, even for kind of medium-sized to big things, if there's a way that we could do that, I'd rather do that than the alternative. There's a book that I have that I really like called But First Coffee. I think that's the name of it. It's about this girl's mom. And she opens it with the fact that her sister, her baby sister, had died. And the mom decided, first, this is not a situation I am in at all. I don't know how I would be able to personally handle it. I'm just trying to apply it to like less crazy things in your life. Decided that you're gonna be walking this path anyway. Do you wanna walk it in the valley or do you wanna walk it in the light? And honestly, that's hard to do a lot of times, and I am not an extremely strong person. I've never been through anything like that. I don't know what I would do, but it helps me to think that, you know, someone could do that and walk in the light, then from my struggles, which are not anywhere near as bad as that, surely I can find something good about it and walk in the light. And I feel like romanticizing stuff, I do that with sometimes I take pictures of all the beauty around me because there is so much beauty. I try to find things that are good, and even just doing these vlogs has been helpful. So yeah, basically I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know if you have any of the same thoughts. I would love to hear maybe what you think or how you somehow cope with things. I just want to hear your thoughts, really. I'd like this to be kind of like a conversation. Just leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Meanwhile, I will be doing this entire bed in carrots and chickpeas, and I'm alternating rows. So I'm just doing like, these are the carrots, chickpeas. We're just going to go to the end to where I have my walking onions, and hopefully it all goes to plan. And these carrots, this saved seed comes up and looks beautiful. I think it will, because this is saved seed. I mean, you know, this came from the seed from the carrots. And they look great. So hopefully it'll all turn out great, and then we'll have even more food. And that's another whole thing that I don't talk about, is how much food you really need to grow. It's a lot. That's for another day. So have a great day. Catch y'all later. Got him? All right. Done.